Hi, everybody. It's Michael and Julie again with Solas Inspirational Chats. And this evening we have our lovely friend, Una McGurk, senior counsel, barrister, truth seeker, who works very hard at trying to get as much truth out there as possible and has represented the truth movement for a number of years. And we really are delighted to call her our friend.
We are indeed. Díomh go léir. And thank you so much, Una McGurk, for joining us this evening. I'm sure there's no one who's tuning in to this podcast who doesn't know you, but we actually do have lots of followers abroad. So please tell our viewers a little bit about you because we think you're fantastic, but we're biased.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much, Julie and Michael. And it's a pleasure to be here and an honor. And thank you so much for inviting me onto your podcast. So gosh, where do I start? I mean, how far back do you want to go? I think, as you said, essentially in terms of my career, I'm a barrister and senior counsel, but I worked in the system really until 2020. And then I did something that the establishment didn't like. I spoke truth to power, and I spoke out specifically at a rally in 2020. I was the first person to call out the flawed, fraudulent PCR test in Ireland, which was used to justify the lockdowns. I also spoke out against the mandatory wearing of masks. I didn't have a problem, nor could anybody have, with anybody wearing a mask if they wanted to. Of course, it was the mandatory wearing of masks I had an issue with and the dangers involved in that. And especially because I knew what was coming down the line for children. So as a result of that, I was ridiculed. I was defamed by the media. So many journalists went after me and others went after me because a number of government ministers spoke out publicly against me. And ultimately, I was cancelled by the establishment and in effect lost my career and my income, which was very serious because I was a single lady and with, I had no children, no partner and nothing like that. So it's been very difficult ever since, but I don't want to get into that because I'm a fighter and I'm very strong and a very good survivor. And so I came back from all of that, and I even ran in the elections last year, as you know. But since then, I have really, I have my own YouTube channel. I've done a lot of videos myself highlighting inadequacies, discrepancies, lies, deception, deceit. Really, that's been coming down the track, mainly from our own government. I'm very sad to say, but that is true and it's a fact. So, and I've also done a lot of interviews at home and abroad in relation to all of those issues to highlight them for people, because like your good selves, what I stand for essentially is truth. It's all about, for me, it's always about truth. And that's very, very important to me and to my life. And that's really what drives me, and is that I just want people to know the truth about what's really going on in order to increase awareness so that more people will waken up to the deception and the corruption and the deceit that's out there all around them. And I mean, it's a very difficult task because I think we all want to be positive, and I think we do feel positive going forward, but I think that in order for people to truly waken up, realize who they are, they need to be more connected with their source creator. And I think to have more awareness, they can only have that if they know the truth about everything, even though it's unpalatable or it may seem unpalatable, and it can be hard sometimes to recognize the truth or to recognize that one has been deceived. But it's the old adage, really, that the truth shall set you free. And I believe that very much, and I take that to heart.
Yeah, we know that you spoke earlier this year at Mise Éire gathering. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see you there. And at other gatherings, we've watched you speak before and have enjoyed both yourself and the company that you keep when you get on stage to get the truth out to the people. We were at the recent Mise Éire event in Castlebar, organised by Stephen Kerr, and I have to say we spoke with some of your friends, the likes of Derek Domino and Eddie Hobbs and other people like that. you know, which
Yes,
was great.
and Thomas Sheridan, sure, we had a lovely weekend with you down in
Yes.
Éire with the Thomas Sheridan event. Was that 2 years ago?
Oh,
Thomas,
yes,
fly.
that's right.
And then when we see you, we
there are
say,
so
"See
many,
you soon."
thank you. There are so many great people out there, again, who would be very similar to myself, who just want, you know, to tell people the truth about what's happening. Because I think we've been kept in the dark for so long, where we're in this situation where, you know, as you know, and as I know, it is a war. It's a spiritual war. It's an information war. It's a psychological war. It's not a kinetic war in the way that the earlier wars have been. It's just a different type of war. But it's been going on in the background for aeons, for centuries, really. And most people, only a few enlightened people throughout the ages, recognized what was really going on. But now there's more and more people awake to what's going on. And I think that's marvelous. Whilst it might seem difficult in one level, in another way, it's also very exciting. And I feel that we're all here for a reason. And the reason is to spread the truth and to speak truth.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that you're speaking in January the 10th and 11th, I think it is.
Yes, at the Ireland Forum. Yes,
yeah.
we've got it's Una, would you like to tell us a bit about
Sure.
that? And also, we're going to put all the details about you, your YouTube, your Twitter, I believe. Yes, I know something about that Twitter account and all your social media platforms in the blurb below, because I think a lot
Oh, that would be
interested
great,
in
because I
tuning in.
haven't even managed to do that myself, Julie. You know my
You're too
technological
busy.
skills. And that's not an area where I shine, but we won't go there. So for anyone out there who's ever contacted me and doesn't or can't understand why I haven't responded, could you just please try to understand that when I was growing up, we didn't have the internet. It was a long, long time ago. So I have been sort of dragged kicking and screaming into the 21st century when it comes to technology. So, but here we are, and I'm talking to you on a screen, and my grandmother would be amazed if she were still alive, bless her, that we could do such things. But yes, there are, of course, wonderful advantages to technology, and I do embrace them as much as I can, as do you. But in relation to the Éire Forum event in the Carlton in Dublin in January, yes, I'm delighted you've got your tickets, and I hope those listening to this podcast will also come along and join us. The host is Eddie Hobbs, whom you know has been very instrumental in interviewing a lot of people like myself and bringing forward truth about what's really going on in the world and what's going on in Ireland through his Counterpoint studio podcasts, which are proving to be a great success, and he's doing very well with them. And Eddie has reached a point, like as I think with all of us at this stage, where we've talked a lot about the problems. We know what the problems are. So let's now talk about solutions. So I'm delighted about that. Personally, because I've talked a lot about the problems. I've been talking about them now for 5 years, but I've also been talking about solutions. And when I ran in the elections last year, I had a 5-point plan for to resolve the immigration crisis. But do you think I managed to get on mainstream media? No. Certainly not. No, they made sure that I didn't get on mainstream media. And I even went to the High Court in an attempt to stop the Dáil from voting in the EU Asylum and Migration Pact, because I knew it would have such serious consequences for the country. And now we have this bizarre situation where our party leaders, and the Taoiseach and the Taoiseach, coming out and saying what I and others were saying for years, that we have a problem with immigration. And yet they're the very same people who orchestrated and promoted the signing into law of that EU and Migration Pact last year, which will ultimately be very responsible for making what is already a very difficult situation even much worse in years to come. So they are completely responsible for this problem, but they're not taking any responsibility, which is the case with them. And now they're trying to backpedal in a big way. But anyway, that relates. That was one of the solutions I had to the immigration problem. I had 4 others. And so I'm in the business myself of providing solutions. I always have been. I think it's really important. And I'm delighted that Eddie is having an event in January where he wants to talk about solutions in a wide variety of areas. Obviously all those that affect us, like housing and migration and free speech. And, I think there's probably no topic really which is off the table or will be off the table for anyone who is concerned about the future direction of this country. And for those of us who are awake, I think we need to be very concerned about the future direction of this country.
Absolutely.
So I hope everyone hearing this podcast will come along to that event, because even though there will be lots of speakers like myself, I've no doubt that the audience will be invited to participate in the event as well, and so they should. And that many people in the audience, including your good selves, will have lots of very valid and valuable and worthwhile ideas about what we can do to move forward and restore the sort of the sanctity and the brilliance of our own country, our native Éire, which has been losing its soul, and we need to bring that back. We need to keep Mother Ireland, Mother Éire alive. We need her thriving in a new world. And there are a lot of us who are deeply connected with the land, deeply connected with the soil, deeply connected with everything that's relevant to our culture. And we see it eroding before our eyes. And we want to do everything we can to prevent that, but to do it in a manner which is balanced and, is still takes account of whatever legitimate, international obligations we have. And so there's a balance to be had in that process, but it's complicated, obviously. And so the way it's been handled has not been in a manner which is conducive to respecting the views, the wishes, the culture of Irish people. And this is unacceptable. It's not just unacceptable to me and you. I believe it is, in fact, seriously unacceptable to the vast majority of people in this country. And there are certain areas that are not even allowed to be discussed in Ireland, and they're not allowed to be discussed openly, like our membership of the EU, for example, or really issues with regard to migration, because as you all know, a new term appeared in the lexicon of Irish politicians within the last 4 years, the concept of a person known as a far-right person. That meant anybody who was objecting to anything that was said by the government. And the interesting thing is, and I have to give him credit, whether you like him or not, or whatever views you may have of him, Conor McGregor did us all such an extraordinary favor when he used an amazing opportunity he had at the White House when he got up on that podium, and he used his opportunity to describe what was going on in Ireland, and he described it as an immigration racket. That's exactly what it is. And he called it out for what it was and what it is in front of the world stage and in front of the world's media. And the great benefit of that for Ireland and for the Irish people was that, the Irish media could no longer keep it a secret, neither could the government. So for the first time ever, they actually came out and started to write about it and to talk about it and to discuss it because of Conor McGregor, because of what he did by speaking about the matter on the world stage. So we owe him certainly a debt of gratitude for that. And I think that's important to remember. And I just want to say that. So at least now it's possible for people to talk about those subjects, which you couldn't 12 months ago. It literally was verboten. So to some extent, we've moved on. we have the politicians busily backpedaling, even though they're the ones who've created the problem, and they also created it with their Project 2040 plan, which I spoke about, by the way, at the Mise, Éire festival in August.
Yes.
And I described that plan in detail. So if anybody wants to hear that, I think they can find my talk on the Mise, Éire website. It's there, what I said about that. And it's important that people know this, because sometimes people are confused and they think that, oh, this is all random and it's organic, and, you know, all these poor people are coming over here because, you know, they're fleeing war. You know, the vast majority of them, 75 to 80% of them, are not fleeing any war at all. They're coming here for economic reasons. Now, there's nothing per se wrong with that. People are entitled to go somewhere else to, you know, have a better life. Who wouldn't want that for an individual? But there has to be rules and regulations governing that. You can't just walk into Australia, for example. No matter how well qualified you are, you have to go through a process. You have to prove your qualifications. There's a points process which you have to engage with before you are admitted even to residency in Australia. And I think that's a great system. We could have had a similar one here. We could still have a similar one here, but the government are refusing to have it because of this Project 2040, which was instigated in 2015. It's from 2015 up to 2040. And basically their plan is to have some 8 million people in Ireland, north and south, by 2040, and 10 million in Ireland, north and south, by 2050. And at the rate they're going, they probably will even exceed those numbers. So these plans were made by politicians, principally those in Fine Gael. Simon Coveney and Leo Varadkar, and Simon Harris was involved as well, without recourse to the people, without consultation with the people, without having any public debate on these issues with the people. And it's very, very inappropriate. So a lot of people don't realize that. So even though they could take many measures to alleviate or reduce the numbers coming in, or to control them in some way, what they've done is they have allowed open borders. There's no control. We're losing our sovereignty. And the net effect is uncontrolled migration. And we all know the problems that are arising and that have arisen as a consequence of that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we look forward to seeing you, Una, in January for the Solutions-Oriented Forum. And as I said, I'll put all the details down below. And just on a positive note, today, Una, is Sunday. We're going to air this tomorrow. But the Irish soccer team have accomplished miracles. That's the only term. So I feel we're changing timelines, and I feel our little island is fantastic. I have so much hope, and I know Michael does too, for Éire. As you said, the energy here, the divine feminine breed, whoever you'd like to call it, Mother Éire, it is phenomenal. And the Irish people are rising up. And even Eddie Hobbs said it, it's Manona Heron. So Mahu, Una, keep up the fantastic work. We will see you soon in person. But thank you so much for
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. And I look forward to seeing you in January when we talk about the solutions, because it's a new year, it's a new era. We're moving into a new energy, and I'm delighted to be involved in a forum where we will be talking about solutions.
That's great. Thank you very much, Una. And we shall talk to you again.
You're very welcome.
So,
yeah, thank you, Julie. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.